Grand avenues stretch toward horizons that never came to be. This is the haunting reality of unfinished cities, ambitious masterplans frozen in time. We are about to explore 22 of these abandoned urban dreams, from ancient metropolises to modern ghost towns. By the end of this journey, you will understand the invisible forces that can halt a civilization's grandest ambitions in their tracks. What could make a thriving capital vanish almost overnight? Why would a futuristic resort be left to crumble before anyone ever moved in? Each story reveals a powerful lesson about our own relentless drive to build. What does the fate of a forgotten city tell you about the world we are constructing today? These silent avenues speak directly to our own unfulfilled dreams. An abandoned city is more than just a collection of ruins. It is a rupture in time itself. It is a place where ambition was frozen mid-sentence, leaving behind a haunting landscape of what could have been. We are not merely looking at old stones, we are confronting a powerful and universal human emotion, the melancholy of lost potential. Archaeologists like Dr. Anya Sharma describe these sites as historical palimpsests. Imagine an ancient parchment where one text was scraped away to write another. In these cities, we can still read the original intentions of the builders, the grand vision of a thriving metropolis, layered over with the slow, patient writing of nature. We see the straight line of a foundation wall being swallowed by twisting tree roots. We see a grand plaza cracked open by wildflowers. This collision of human order and natural reclamation creates a unique, almost painful beauty. It sparks our imagination, forcing us to fill in the blanks of the story. What would life have been like here if the plan had succeeded? Who would have walked these streets? The silence is not empty, it is filled with these ghostly echoes. This deep resonance connects to our own personal fears of impermanence and our own abandoned projects. We see our own small-scale ambitions and disappointments reflected in these colossal failures. Understanding this psychological pull is the key to our entire journey. It transforms our investigation from a simple catalogue of ruins into an exploration of the human spirit itself, its boundless hope, its occasional hubris, and its constant, fragile dance with the unforeseen. So what exactly are we looking for amidst these ghostly foundations? Our journey requires a precise definition to separate true unfinished cities from settlements that simply faded away. An unfinished city is not a place that lived a full life and then fell into ruin. It is a place that was born from a grand design, a comprehensive master plan, and where construction began with immense ambition, only to be permanently halted before that vision could ever be realized. The key lies in three critical criteria. First, there must be clear evidence of a formal urban design, a blueprint for a future metropolis with streets, districts, and public spaces all planned in advance. Second, work must have begun on a substantial scale. We are not talking about a single unfinished building, but the skeletal framework of an entire urban area with foundations laid, roads cleared, and infrastructure partially installed. Finally, there must be an identifiable historical break, a specific event or a confluence of factors that caused all construction to cease abruptly, freezing the site in its developmental stage. Picture a construction site where the workers simply put down their tools one day and never returned, leaving behind the raw bones of a city that never drew its first breath. This definition sharpens our focus onto the precise moment of interrupted creation, allowing us to ask the most compelling question of all: what happened to silence the architect's dream? And with this framework firmly in mind, we are ready to step into the first of these silent building sites. The vast, grassy plain of Monk's Mound rises with a quiet authority that defies its 800 years of silence. This colossal earthwork was once the vibrant heart of Cahokia, a city that rivaled London in population during its peak around the year 1100. Its masterplan was a breathtaking feat of engineering and social organization. Imagine a central plaza stretching for over 40 acres, flanked by more than 120 meticulously constructed mounds. Some were flat-topped platforms for the homes of elites and religious ceremonies, while others served as burial sites or territorial markers. A sophisticated arrangement of residential districts housed a diverse population of thousands, connected by wide, carefully maintained avenues. At the center of it all stood the Woodhenge, a circle of massive wooden posts functioning as a precise solar calendar, aligning with the sunrises of the equinoxes and solstices. This was not a haphazard settlement. It was a deliberate, fully realized urban vision, a testament to the Mississippian people's profound understanding of astronomy, community, and power. Yet by the 1400s, the city was completely vacant. The Grand Plaza fell silent, the thatched roof houses decayed, and the Woodhenge posts rotted away. What could possibly cause such a thriving metropolis to simply close up shop and vanish? Archaeologists point to a perfect storm of challenges. The city may have simply grown too large, its dense population straining local resources like timber and game. Evidence suggests a period of significant climate change, with cooler temperatures and frequent flooding disrupting the vital corn agriculture that fed the populace. There is also the possibility of social and political upheaval, that the very hierarchical system that built the mounds may have collapsed under its own weight or from external pressures. The people did not disappear. They likely migrated to form smaller, more sustainable communities elsewhere, but the grand urban experiment of Cahokia was over. Its unfinished potential lies not in halted construction, but in a cultural vision that was ultimately unsustainable. This first example stands as a monumental warning, a theme that will resonate through the ages, that no society, no matter how brilliant its planning, is immune to the unpredictable forces of a changing world. While Cahokia's decline was a slow unraveling, some cities are extinguished in an instant, their lifeblood cut off by the death of a single visionary. On the east bank of the Nile, the sun-baked plains of Amarna hold the ghost of one such place. This was Akhetaten, the dream capital of the heretic pharaoh Akhetaten. His vision was as radical as it was absolute. He rejected the entire pantheon of Egyptian gods, from Osiris to Isis, and declared that there was only one true deity, the sun disk Aten. To worship this sole god, he needed a clean slate, a capital city untainted by the old religions. The master plan for Akhetaten was drawn with frenetic urgency, a sprawling linear city stretching along the river, with vast open-air temples to Aten, elaborate palaces, and neatly organized residential districts for workers and officials. Construction was a whirlwind of activity, with entire buildings rising from the desert in just years instead of decades. The city was designed to be a perfect, sun-drenched monument to a single idea. But that idea lived and died with one man. The moment Akhetaten passed away, his entire revolution collapsed. The powerful priesthood of the old gods regained its influence, and the capital was moved back to Thebes. Akhetaten was not just abandoned, it was actively dismantled. Its stone blocks were systematically quarried for other projects, its inscriptions defaced, and its very memory erased from official histories. The city's fate demonstrates a chilling truth that an urban center built entirely on one person's ideology has no foundation once that person is gone. The sands quickly reclaimed what the stonecutters left behind, burying one of history's most dramatic and short-lived experiments in both monotheism and urban planning. The gleaming promise of the atomic age curdled in a single night. Pripyat was not born from ancient faith or royal decree, but from the cold, rational optimism of Soviet science. Designed in the 1970s as a model atomgrad, a nuclear city, its master plan was a blueprint for a perfect, planned community. Wide boulevards were laid out between uniform blocks of modern apartments, each equipped with central heating and hot water, a luxury in that era. A grand cultural palace stood ready to host concerts and lectures, while schools, swimming pools, and hospitals served a young, thriving population of plant workers and their families. At the city's heart, a brand new fairground awaited its grand opening, its Ferris wheel a colorful symbol of the bright future everyone believed was assured. This was a city built for 50,000 people, a living monument to humanity's triumph over nature through technology. Then, on April 26, 1986, the future arrived in a form no one had planned for. The explosion at reactor number 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant did not just cause a mechanical failure, it shattered a worldview. The evacuation was swift and absolute. Residents were told to bring only enough for a few days, leaving behind meals on tables, children's toys on floors, and the entire apparatus of a modern city, fully functioning and utterly devoid of life. Pripyat did not decay from a slow decline. It was perfectly preserved in its final moment, a time capsule of a technological dream that turned catastrophic. Its silent Ferris wheel never carried a single laughing child. The classrooms in its schools never again heard a lesson. This city represents a uniquely modern form of abandonment, where the very engine of its creation became the instrument of its instant ruin. It forces us to confront a terrifying question: what happens when our most advanced tools of progress betray the communities we build around them? Beneath the quiet streets of Centralia, Pennsylvania, a fire has been burning for over 60 years. This was not a city of pharaohs or a futuristic atomgrad, but a simple American mining town, its master plan a straightforward grid of streets, family homes, and small businesses. Its undoing began not with a revolution or an explosion, but with a routine landfill burn in 1962 that accidentally ignited the exposed coal seam running like a black vein beneath the town. The fire sank deep into the labyrinth of abandoned mines, creating a subterranean furnace that proved impossible to extinguish. This was a slow-motion catastrophe, an invisible enemy that could not be fought with conventional means. For years, residents lived with the creeping signs of the disaster, from the death of vegetation in their backyards to the faint, sinister smell of sulfur seeping from the ground. The master plan for a thriving community was systematically dismantled by an unstoppable geological force. Roads buckled and split open, venting plumes of toxic steam. Sinkholes threatened to swallow entire properties. The very ground beneath their feet became unstable and dangerous. A massive, ultimately futile government effort to dig out the fire only underscored its immensity. One by one, families were relocated, their homes purchased and demolished. Today, the grid of streets remains, a haunting asphalt skeleton superimposed on a green landscape. You can walk down a road that simply ends at a field of weeds, or see a single set of crumbling concrete steps leading to a lawn that hasn't been mowed in decades. Centralia's legacy is a profound one. It shows that a community's blueprint for the future can be erased not by human conflict, but by the planet itself, a quiet, relentless reminder that our grandest designs are always subject to the immense and ancient forces sleeping just beneath the surface. Emperor Akbar, the great capital of red sandstone, stands as a monument to both supreme ambition and a single, fatal flaw. Fatehpur Sikri was more than a city. It was a statement of imperial power and spiritual unity, its master plan a breathtaking fusion of Islamic and Hindu design principles. Grand courtyards, ornate palaces, and pillared pavilions were all carved from the same warm stone, creating a harmonious architectural masterpiece. At its heart lay the Buland Darwaza, the Gate of Magnificence, a towering victory arch that remains one of the largest in the world. The city was conceived not just as a political capital but as a spiritual center, built near the hermitage of a Sufi saint who had blessed Akbar with a male heir. For 14 glorious years, it was the vibrant hub of the Mughal Empire, a place of courtly intrigue, philosophical debate, and immense cultural output. Yet this magnificent urban machine possessed a critical weakness: its water supply. An intricate system of reservoirs, tanks, and canals was engineered to collect monsoon rains, but it was never enough to sustain a population of tens of thousands through prolonged drought. When the rains failed, the wells and tanks ran dry. The very lifeline of the city evaporated. The court had no choice but to pack up and move, first to Lahore and later to Agra, leaving the glorious sandstone buildings to the relentless sun and the wind. Fatehpur Sikri's story is uniquely poignant because it was not halted mid-construction. It was completed and then rendered obsolete. It is a ghost city in the truest sense, not of a failed idea, but of a successful one that could not endure. Its silent, empty courtyards force us to ask a difficult question of our own sprawling modern cities. What invisible vulnerability lies at the foundation of our greatest works? The sleek, colorful pods of the Sanzhi UFO houses looked like a fleet of spaceships that had landed on the Taiwanese coast, a vision of the future from the mind of a 1970s developer. This was not a city for the masses, but a luxury resort designed as a playground for wealthy American military personnel on leave. Its master plan was pure speculative fantasy, a collection of pod-shaped dwellings connected by futuristic walkways, all facing the ocean with the promise of a space-age vacation. The design was a radical, almost shocking departure from every architectural tradition, a bold gamble on a new kind of leisure. For a brief moment, it seemed the future had arrived. Then the money ran out. The ambitious development company went bankrupt, halting construction and leaving the colorful pods empty and exposed. Into this vacuum of failure rushed a powerful new force: local superstition. Rumors began to circulate of fatal accidents during construction, of ancient curses placed upon the land which had disturbed old burial grounds. The site became known not for its futuristic vision, but as a haunted place, a ghost resort. The combination of stark financial reality and potent folklore was a death sentence. For decades, the decaying pods stood as a surreal monument to this dual failure, their vibrant paint peeling under the salt air until they were finally demolished. Sanjai's story is a unique twist on our theme, showing that a master plan can be doomed not just by practical problems, but by the stories people tell about it. It was a dream that was not only ahead of its time, but ultimately alien to the very culture it tried to inhabit. A city of glass and steel can stand perfectly complete under the sun, yet feel more hollow than ancient ruins. Ordos' Kangbashi district in China presents this exact paradox, a master plan executed with breathtaking speed and precision, only to be met with a profound, echoing silence. This was not a project halted by war or disaster, but by a simple, colossal miscalculation. Its origins lie in the immense wealth generated by the regional coal boom, a river of money that local officials decided to channel into building a new, world-class metropolis from scratch. Architects were given a blank slate and an immense budget, resulting in a skyline of stunning, avant-garde museums, vast public squares adorned with monumental sculptures, and sprawling residential complexes equipped with every modern convenience. The blueprint was flawless, a vision of a thriving cultural and economic hub designed to attract over 1 million residents, but the people never came. For years, Kangbashi existed as a ghost of the future, its multi-lane highways empty of traffic, its state-of-the-art libraries devoid of readers, and its apartment blocks standing as dark, vacant sentinels. The master plan was finished in every physical sense, yet the city remained utterly unfinished in the only way that truly matters. It lacked a soul. This phenomenon forces a difficult question. What is the essential ingredient that transforms a collection of buildings into a living community? Is a city defined by its infrastructure or by the human relationships that pulse within it? Ordos stands as a stark warning from our own century, a testament to the danger when aggressive development policies and speculative finance radically outpace organic demand. It is a powerful reminder that you cannot simply will a city into existence, no matter how perfect the plan or how deep the pockets. A true metropolis must be grown, not just built. A single runway stretches for over 4 kilometers across the sun-baked plains of central Spain, a concrete ribbon leading to a terminal building of vast, echoing halls. This is the ghost of Ciudad Real Central Airport, a monument to a very modern kind of ambition. Its master plan was not for a city of homes, but for a city of connections, a critical node in a global network. Built at the peak of Spain's construction boom, it was designed to be a major international hub, diverting traffic from the overcrowded Madrid airport. Its runway was one of the longest in Europe, capable of handling the largest jumbo jets. The terminal was equipped with every modern convenience, from expansive check-in desks to bustling retail spaces that were never occupied. The entire project was the centerpiece of a regional development strategy, a bet that you could build a global gateway and the economic prosperity it promised would simply follow. But the bet was lost almost as soon as it was made. The global financial crisis of 2008 struck a devastating blow, crippling the airline industry and evaporating the passenger traffic the business model depended on. Compounding this was a fatal flaw in its location, situated too far from the population centers it needed to serve. The master plan for a thriving regional economy, with the airport as its beating heart, was left stillborn. The airport went bankrupt and closed its doors in 2012, a mere 4 years after its grand opening. Today, its empty control tower and silent tarmac stand as a stark lesson in the limits of infrastructure alone. You can build the most perfect state-of-the-art machine, but if the world has no need for its function, it becomes a cathedral to silence. This case forces us to ask whether any grand vision can survive a fundamental miscalculation of its own necessity. Wittenoom was built on poison. Nestled within the breathtaking red gorges of Western Australia, this company town was established with a brutally simple master plan, a collection of homes, a school, and shops, all designed to service the lucrative blue asbestos mine. For a time, it was a bustling community, its existence entirely dependent on the fibrous mineral that was then hailed as a miracle substance. Workers and their families lived in the very heart of the dust that coated their homes and filled the air they breathed, completely unaware that each fiber was a microscopic dagger. The town's master plan was not halted by war or financial collapse, but by a creeping, invisible truth. Medical evidence began to mount, revealing the horrifying link between asbestos exposure and fatal lung diseases like mesothelioma. The mine was closed in 1966, but the true scale of the tragedy had only just begun to unfold. Wittenoom did not simply fall into ruin, it was systematically erased. The government, recognizing the permanent contamination of the site, embarked on a decades-long project of demolition and remediation. Houses were bulldozed, power and water were cut, and residents were paid to leave. In a final, symbolic act of erasure, Wittenoom was officially removed from road signs and government maps. Today, the few stubborn holdouts are dwarfed by a landscape of vacant lots and silent foundations, all set against that majestic, deceptive beauty. This is a masterplan undone by the very resource that gave it life, a stark lesson in how a community's entire reason for being can become its death sentence. Wittenoom forces us to confront a chilling modern reality that some places are so toxic their only remaining purpose is to serve as a permanent warning, a ghost town that official memory has tried and failed to completely forget. A tiny speck of land fortified against the relentless sea, Hashima Island was an urban experiment pushed to its absolute limit. Its masterplan was born from pure industrial necessity, a response to the insatiable demand for undersea coal. To house thousands of workers and their families on a rock barely a kilometer in circumference, engineers designed a vertical city, a labyrinth of concrete apartment blocks that rose like sheer cliffs from the reinforced seawall. At its peak, this microcosm housed over 5,000 people, making it the most densely populated place on the entire planet. Every square meter was meticulously planned, not for leisure or beauty, but for maximum efficiency. The island contained not just apartments, but schools, a hospital, a community center, shops, and even a pachinko parlor, all stacked and compressed within its imposing concrete frame. It was a fully self-contained society, a humming machine where life was synchronized with the shifts of the mind that burrowed deep beneath the ocean floor. Then, with the swiftness of a switched-off light, it all ended. In 1974, as Japan shifted its energy policy from coal to petroleum, the mine was deemed obsolete and closed. The evacuation order was immediate. Residents had only days to gather what they could carry, leaving behind furniture, personal mementos, and the entire infrastructure of their community. The masterplan, so perfectly adapted to its singular purpose, became instantly useless. The very efficiency that defined its existence now guaranteed its complete and rapid abandonment. For decades, the salt-laden winds and powerful typhoons have been slowly dismantling the concrete fortress. Corrosion eats at the rebar within the buildings, causing chunks of concrete to crash into the empty streets below. Nature relentlessly invades the sterile environment, with weeds and moss prying apart the meticulously laid floors and walls. Hashima Island now stands as a profoundly eerie time capsule, a perfectly preserved snapshot of 1970s Japanese life frozen at the moment it was deserted. Its silence is a powerful testament to a brutal truth that a community built entirely around one resource is a city standing on a foundation of sand. When the last load of coal was hauled to the surface, the island's entire reason for being simply vanished into the sea air. The very hill that gave Krakow its life became the instrument of its death. Unlike the grid-like precision of a modern masterplan, this medieval town in southern Italy grew like a living organism, its stone houses and winding alleys clinging to the summit for over 1,000 years. Its original design was not drawn on paper but forged by necessity, a classic example of defensive urbanism where every narrow passage and towering dwelling was shaped to repel invaders. For centuries, this strategy worked perfectly, creating a community that seemed as permanent as the rock it was built upon, but the foundation itself was betraying them. A combination of poor agricultural practices that stripped the land of stabilizing vegetation, a series of earthquakes that fractured the underlying geology, and relentless rainfall initiated a slow, unstoppable creep. The ground was literally moving out from under them. A major landslide in 1963 was the first catastrophic sign, followed by a flood in 1972 that further destabilized the slopes. The Masterplan, which had successfully defended against armies for generations, had no defense against the mountain itself. By 1980, the last resident was gone and the town was permanently evacuated. Today, Krakow stands as a breathtakingly beautiful ruin, its empty stone shells silhouetted against the sky. Its eerie, timeless quality has made it a sought-after backdrop for films, from biblical epics to James Bond adventures. This final, ironic chapter as a movie set highlights the town's ultimate fate. Its reality has been replaced by fiction, its true story of a lost home now serving as a stage for other stories. Krakow's silent, crumbling facades pose a question that resonates far beyond its hilltop. How many of our own cities are engaged in a similar, quiet struggle with the land beneath them, a battle where the ground itself holds the final card? The golden beaches of Varosha were once the playground of film stars and millionaires. Its Masterplan was a shimmering vision of Mediterranean luxury, a strip of gleaming high-rise hotels and modern apartment blocks that cascaded down to the shore. This was the jet-set destination of the 1960s and early 70s, a place where Elizabeth Taylor and Bridget Bardot were known to stroll along the sand. The entire district was an urban machine dedicated to pleasure and escape, a perfectly calibrated resort where every need was anticipated and every comfort provided. Then, in the summer of 1974, the music stopped. The Turkish invasion of Cyprus sent a wave of panic through the Greek Cypriot residents of Varosha. Believing they would return in a matter of weeks, families fled with only what they could carry, leaving behind meals, clothing, and a fully functioning city. The Turkish military swiftly surrounded the entire quarter with barbed wire and checkpoints, sealing it off from the world. What was intended as a temporary security measure became a permanent state of suspended animation. For nearly 5 decades, Varosha has existed in a profound and eerie silence. The Masterplan for leisure did not decay from slow neglect, it was cryogenically frozen. Sun-bleached cars from the 1970s still sit in dealership showrooms. Hotel laundry hangs on forgotten lines, now little more than brittle rags. The skeletons of luxury high-rises stand with their windows hollowed out, staring vacantly at a turquoise sea that no tourist has swum in for a generation. This is not a ruin reclaimed by nature, but a city held hostage by politics, a stark monument to a conflict that remains unresolved. It forces a haunting question. What happens when a place dedicated to life and joy is transformed into a symbol of division and loss? Varosha's ghostly skyline is a chilling reminder that the most fragile element in any urban masterplan is not the concrete and steel, but the fragile piece required for it to live. The masterplan for a city can be erased not by politics or economics, but by the very ground it stands upon, screaming back to life. Plymouth, the capital of the Caribbean island of Montserrat, was a picture of colonial tranquility, its streets laid out in a gentle grid that sloped toward the sparkling sea. For centuries, it functioned as the island's vibrant heart, a hub of government, commerce, and community life where colorful buildings housed bustling shops and administrative offices. The Soufriere Hills volcano looming over the town was considered dormant, a picturesque backdrop to daily life, its long silence a false promise of safety. Then, in July 1995, that silence was shattered. The volcano awoke with a series of eruptions that grew increasingly violent, culminating in cataclysmic pyroclastic flows. These are not rivers of lava, but superheated avalanches of gas, ash, and rock that race down mountainsides at hundreds of kilometers an hour, incinerating everything in their path. One such flow in 1997 sealed Plymouth's fate, entombing the city under meters of gray, suffocating debris. The evacuation was a desperate flight, with residents forced to abandon their homes, their businesses, and their entire way of life with only the clothes on their backs. Today, the ruins of Plymouth lie partially excavated, a haunting modern-day Pompeii where the rooflines of buildings emerge from the ash like the skeletons of forgotten giants. A clock tower stands frozen at the moment it was buried, its hands eternally fixed. This city's end was not a slow decline but a geological verdict delivered with terrifying speed and finality. It stands as the most absolute reminder that our urban dreams are always temporary guests on a dynamic and powerful planet. How many other cities are built in the shadow of a sleeping giant, their master plans utterly oblivious to the raw force resting just beneath the surface? Kolmanskap's Grand Ballroom now hosts a very different kind of gathering, as relentless dunes pour through its shattered windows and drift across the empty dance floor. This was a diamond town, a sudden and improbable jewel planted in the heart of the Namib Desert by German colonists in the early 1900s. Its master plan was an act of sheer defiance, an attempt to recreate a slice of Bavarian elegance amidst one of the most arid landscapes on Earth. Almost overnight, a full urban center materialized, complete with ornate gabled houses, a modern hospital, a casino, and a sprawling skittle alley. In a stunning display of its wealth, it even boasted the first X-ray station in the entire southern hemisphere, not for medical care, but to prevent workers from smuggling precious stones by swallowing them. This was a community built entirely on the frantic extraction of a single, glittering resource, a place where champagne flowed as freely as the water that had to be shipped in by rail from hundreds of miles away. For a few brief decades, it was a paradise of privilege in the sand, but a diamond field is not a farm. It cannot be replanted and harvested again. The seams were exhausted with shocking speed, and as the wealth dried up, the reason for the town's existence vanished with it. By the 1950s, the last resident had simply walked away, locking the door on a way of life that was already being buried. The desert, which had been held at bay for a generation, began its patient and beautiful reclamation. Sand now sweeps through the streets in soft, sculpted waves, spilling through doorways and filling parlors to the ceiling. The very substance that made the town unimaginably rich has become the agent of its erasure. Kolmanskap stands as one of the most visually poetic ruins in the world, a stark lesson in the impermanence of a fortune built on a finite treasure. It asks us a difficult question about our own cities. What invisible resources are our own communities consuming, and what will be left when they are finally gone? The stark white crust of the Atacama Desert holds the ghost of a global industry. Humberstone, Chile, was a meticulously planned oasis of industry, a company town built entirely around the extraction of saltpeter, a mineral essential for both fertilizer and explosives in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Its master plan was a self-contained world, a complete community engineered for survival and productivity in one of the most arid environments on the planet. Neat rows of worker housing, a grand theater for entertainment, a striking swimming pool built from a ship's hull, and a bustling market square were all constructed to sustain the lives of the men and their families who processed the rich caliche ore. For decades, the town thrived, a humming engine of commerce that sent its precious white powder to farms and armies across the globe. Then, a scientific breakthrough in a distant laboratory sealed its fate. The invention of synthetic nitrate in the early 1930s offered a cheaper, more reliable alternative to the mined mineral. Almost overnight, the entire economic foundation of the region crumbled. The global market for natural saltpeter evaporated, and with it, Humberstone's only reason to exist. The master plan for a permanent, self-sufficient society was rendered permanently useless, its buildings and machinery left to the relentless desert wind. Now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, its rusted processing plants and silent plazas stand as a monument to a powerful truth. A city can be perfectly planned, its community vibrant and its infrastructure sound, yet still be killed by an idea, by a technological innovation that rewrites the rules of the world economy from thousands of miles away. The silence of Humberstone asks us to look at our own industrial towns today, to wonder which of our foundational industries might be just one laboratory discovery away from obsolescence. The stone houses of Cahokia still face each other across its quiet valley, a silent conversation between two communities that simply stopped speaking. This was Levissi, a town whose masterplan was not drawn by a single architect, but woven over centuries by Greek Orthodox and Muslim neighbors living side by side. Its layout was a beautiful, organic tapestry, with nearly 500 homes, 2 large churches, and several small mosques all built into the steep mountainside, their stone walls sharing the same local limestone. The streets and pathways connected these structures not as segregated districts, but as a single, integrated community. This was a masterplan for shared life, where the sound of church bells and the call to prayer would have mingled in the same mountain air. That intricate social fabric was torn apart in an instant by the 1923 population exchange between Greece and Turkey, a mandatory treaty following a bitter war. The Greek inhabitants, whose families had lived here for generations, were forced to leave for Greece. The Muslim families sent to resettle here found the mountainous terrain and the empty stone houses an alien and difficult place to farm, and they largely moved down to the more fertile plains. So the town was not just abandoned, it was hollowed out, its purpose severed. The result is a landscape of profound and eerie peace. Walking through Cahokia today, you see not ruins crushed by time, but homes frozen in a moment of departure. Fireplaces still stand in roofless rooms, staircases lead to collapsed upper floors, and the grand church of the Panagia Prypiat stands open to the sky. This is not a masterplan that failed structurally, but one that was socially and politically undone. It stands as a heartbreakingly direct monument to the human cost of division, a ghost town where the real phantom is the vibrant, multicultural life that was forcibly exiled. Its empty windows ask us a difficult question that echoes into our own time. How many of our own diverse communities are just one political decision away from becoming a collection of beautiful, silent stones? The stones of Tiwanaku speak a language of celestial alignment and colossal ambition. On the high plains of the Andes, near the shores of Lake Titicaca, this city was the beating heart of a civilization that thrived for centuries before the Inca ever rose to power. Its masterplan was not merely about buildings, but about weaving the very fabric of the cosmos into the urban landscape. At its core stood the Akhetaten Pyramid, a massive, terraced earthwork believed to represent a sacred mountain, its form channeling rainwater through a complex and ingenious system of stone drains. Nearby, the iconic Gate of the Sun was carved from a single, immense block of andesite, its intricate frieze depicting a central deity often interpreted as a solar calendar. This was a city engineered for eternity, its monuments and plazas precisely oriented to capture the solstice sunrises and the movements of the stars. For hundreds of years, it functioned as a spiritual magnet and a political powerhouse, its influence radiating across the southern Andes. Yet by the year 1000 AD, the heart of this great civilization had stopped beating. The city was abandoned, its grand ceremonial spaces falling into a silence that has lasted for a millennium. What could silence such a meticulously planned and spiritually charged metropolis? The evidence points to a slow, relentless enemy, a changing climate. A prolonged and severe drought is the leading suspect, a climatic shift that would have crippled the raised field agricultural system that fed the sprawling population. The very ingenuity that allowed them to farm the harsh Altiplano may have become its fatal weakness when the rains failed for generations. The unfinished quality of Tiwanaku is not found in halted construction, but in the profound gap between its achieved glory and the even greater destiny its builders clearly envisioned. We see the colossal foundations, the stones that weigh dozens of tons, and we are left to wonder what the completed vision would have looked like after another 500 years of refinement. The ruins are a puzzle where many of the grandest pieces are missing, forcing us to ask what other wonders, now completely lost to time, once filled these sacred plazas. Deep within the Mosquisha jungle, a legend whispered for generations promised a lost metropolis of white stone. La Ciudad Blanca, the White City, was long dismissed as a conquistador's fantasy, a phantom of greed and jungle mist. The master plan for this place was not drawn on paper, but etched into indigenous oral histories, describing a powerful civilization and a city of immense wealth that vanished without a trace. This was the ultimate unfinished city, one so completely erased by the rainforest that its very existence hovered between myth and archaeology. For centuries, explorers and adventurers vanished into the green hell, lured by the promise of a discovery that always remained just out of reach. The city's greatest defense was not its walls, but the jungle itself, a living, breathing entity that consumes stone and memory with equal ease. Then, modern technology offered a way to see through the veil. Using LiDAR, a sophisticated laser mapping system that can peer through the dense forest canopy, researchers made a stunning discovery. The scans revealed not just a few scattered ruins, but the unmistakable geometric signature of a vast human settlement. The land itself was sculpted into immense earthworks, terraces, and plazas, the ghostly footprint of a once significant urban center. This was not a lone temple, but the skeletal remains of a true master plan, a coordinated effort to build a society in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. The city was abandoned centuries before Columbus, its people and its purpose dissolving back into the ecosystem. What catastrophic event, what slow decline, could lead an entire culture to simply walk away from such a monumental achievement, leaving it to be so completely forgotten that it became a fairy tale? The slow, careful excavation of La Ciudad Blanca is now rewriting history, proving that some of our greatest urban mysteries are not gone, merely sleeping, waiting for the right moment to whisper their secrets from the soil. The story of Skara Brae begins not with a king's decree, but with a howling gale. In 1850, a colossal storm ripped the grass and sand from a large mound on the Bay of Scale in Orkney, revealing the outlines of stone walls that had been hidden for over 4,000 years. What emerged from the earth was not a grand city, but a village of profound intimacy, a master plan for daily life from the dawn of settled society. Its design is astonishingly familiar. Each stone house, built into a midden of refuse that provided both insulation and stability, contained the same essential elements: a central hearth for warmth and cooking, stone bed boxes that would have been filled with heather and animal skins, and a most remarkable feature, a stone dresser. This shelving unit, positioned directly across from the entrance, would have held the family's most prized possessions, a Neolithic precursor to the modern display cabinet. The entire village was connected by a labyrinth of low, covered passageways, allowing people to move between homes sheltered from the harsh North Atlantic winds. This was a blueprint for a secure, communal existence, a plan for survival and comfort that worked so well it was inhabited for 6 centuries. Yet even this resilient community eventually packed up and left. The leading theory points not to invaders or plague, but to a slowly encroaching enemy: climate change. As the weather grew colder and wetter, the sand dunes that had once protected the village began to smother it, making agriculture and daily life increasingly difficult. The people of Skara Bree did not vanish. They likely relocated to more hospitable land, but their perfectly planned stone village was left to the elements, gradually buried and forgotten until that fateful storm. Its existence forces a humbling realization. The phenomenon of the abandoned masterplan is as ancient as civilization itself. Long before pharaohs or emperors, ordinary people were drawing their own blueprints for community, and those plans, too, could be erased by the shifting forces of the natural world. The silence of Jedi is a different kind of mystery altogether. Here, deep within the coastal forests of Kenya, the ruins of a once prosperous Swahili town hide a secret no historical record has yet to explain. Its masterplan is laid out with stunning clarity, a complex urban grid of coral stone buildings enclosed by a formidable protective wall. You can walk down its main streets, past the foundations of grand houses with separate quarters for men and women, and stand in the central palace complex. Multiple mosques of different sizes suggest a devout and layered community, while the town's sophisticated plumbing system, with its sunken flush toilets, speaks to a high degree of civic engineering and comfort. For 400 years, from the 13th to the 17th century, Jedi was a thriving node in the Indian Ocean trade network, a place where ivory, gold, and exotic goods changed hands, bringing wealth and cosmopolitan influence. Then, sometime in the early 1700s, everyone left. The truly haunting part is what we do not find. There is no evidence of a sacked city, no layers of ash from a great fire, no mass graves to suggest a plague. The artifacts recovered are those of daily life, not of panic or conflict. It appears the people of Jedi simply gathered their most precious belongings, closed their doors, and walked away from a perfectly functional, defensible, and prosperous city. Why would an entire community abandon such a successful masterplan? Theories abound, of course. Some point to the rising power of nearby city-states, suggesting the residents may have felt a looming political threat that never materialized into a physical attack. Others wonder if a shift in water tables or a silent environmental crisis, like the siltation of a crucial port, slowly choked the town's economic life. Perhaps it was a combination of pressures, a slow creep of uncertainty that finally outweighed the benefits of staying. But without a written record, the truth remains buried. Jedi's enigma forces us to confront a profound possibility that a city can be abandoned not in a dramatic collapse, but in a quiet, collective decision. Its empty streets are a monument to a different kind of ending, one not written in fire and sword, but in the quiet, deliberate footsteps of a community that simply chose to vanish back into the jungle, leaving their beautifully planned home as a perfect and perfectly silent question for the ages. The wind howls across a high plateau, whipping through the skeletons of 1,001 churches. This is Ani, the ancient capital of the Armenian kingdom, a masterplan of faith and stone that once rivaled Constantinople in its splendor. Its design was a declaration of power and piety, a cityscape dominated by soaring cathedrals and formidable double walls that snaked across the terrain. These defenses were engineering marvels designed to repel armies, and the churches within were architectural wonders, their intricate stonework and innovative designs showcasing a cultural golden age. Positioned at the crossroads of major trade routes, Ani thrived as a commercial hub, its wealth fueling an unprecedented urban and religious building boom. But that very location, its greatest strength, became its fatal curse. It sat directly in the path of expanding empires, a glittering prize that was impossible to protect forever. The first major blow came from the east, with Mongol raids that shattered the city's prosperity and security. Then, in 1319, a catastrophic earthquake struck, toppling spires and collapsing roofs, delivering a physical blow from which the city could never fully recover. As if nature and war had not done enough, the final stroke was economic. The great trade routes that were the city's lifeblood began to shift, bypassing Ani and slowly starving what remained of its population. By the 17th century, the last residents had departed, leaving the city of 1,001 churches to the wolves and the weather. Today, its haunting ruins stand directly on the closed border between Turkey and Armenia, a no-man's land where a masterplan of divine ambition is now a monument to the relentless tides of conquest, geology, and commerce. How many of our own great cities are built upon a similar knife's edge, where a single shift in the political or economic winds could silence their streets forever? Our final city exists only in the realm of pure thought. Frank Lloyd Wright's proposal for the Illinois was not an abandoned construction site, but a dream sketched in ink and rendered in breathtaking perspective drawings. In 1956, the visionary architect unveiled his plan for a mile-high skyscraper, a single structure designed to house every function of an entire metropolis for over 100,000 people. This was the ultimate centralized master plan, a direct and radical challenge to the horizontal sprawl he saw as the great failure of modern life. Within its 528 floors, you would have found everything from homes and offices to theaters, schools, and hospitals, all connected by a system of atomic-powered, multi-passenger elevators that raced along the exterior of the building like something from a science fiction novel. The design was technologically fantastical for its time, a structure that would have needed entirely new materials and construction techniques just to support its own impossible weight against the wind. It was a city conceived not as a gradual growth, but as a singular, monumental act of human will, and that is precisely why it was never seriously pursued. The Illinois did not fail due to war or a lack of water. It was a master plan that remained unfinished because its sheer scale of ambition outpaced the technological and economic reality of its era. It represents the absolute extreme of the urban dream, a blueprint so grand and so total that it could never truly begin. This final example brings our journey to a profound close, forcing us to ask one last question. Is a city defined by the stones we lay, or is it equally defined by the breathtaking, impossible blueprints we leave behind on the drafting table, forever challenging the next generation to reach a little higher? These 22 silent cities, scattered across millennia and continents, whisper with a collective voice. Their stories are not isolated tragedies, but chapters in a single, sprawling saga of human ambition. A clear and sobering pattern emerges from their ruins, a recurring checklist of urban demise. The first and most ancient threat is resource depletion, the well that simply runs dry. We saw it at Cahokia, where the land could no longer support the population, and at Kolmanskap, where the diamonds were plucked from the earth until nothing of value remained. Then there is environmental catastrophe, the planet reasserting its dominance with volcanic fury at Plymouth, or with the slow, creeping poison beneath Centralia. Economic collapse can erase a city's purpose overnight, as it did for the speculative ghost of Ordos and the global gateway of Ciudad Real Airport. Political conflict freezes time itself, holding a vibrant resort like Varosha hostage for decades. And finally, technological obsolescence can render an entire industry, and the towns built upon it, suddenly useless, as synthetic nitrate did to Humberstone and petroleum did to Hashima Island. These 5 threads weave through history, connecting a medieval Italian hill town to a futuristic Taiwanese resort. They reveal a universal truth we often ignore in our rush to build, that a master plan is not a guarantee of permanence. It is a wager, a bet placed against time, circumstance, and the ultimate limits of our own foresight. For historians and urban planners, these sites are not mere failures. They are invaluable open-air laboratories, case studies in urban resilience, or more accurately, in the lack of it. They show us the precise points where a city's social, economic, or environmental fabric tore under pressure. This understanding is not just academic, it is urgently practical. It offers vital, hard-won lessons for the sprawling megacities we inhabit and continue to construct today. Every one of our modern urban centers is built upon a similar wager, and they will one day face their own tests of longevity and adaptability. The silent question from these 22 ruins is not if that test will come, but whether we have learned enough from their silence to be ready for it. This collective silence from across the ages forms a single, profound narrative about the human spirit. Our journey from Cahokia's earthen mounds to the paper dream of the Illinois reveals a relentless drive to impose order on chaos, to build monuments against the inevitable passage of time. Each of these 22 sites is a testament to that ambition, and a humbling lesson in the forces, both great and small, that can bring it to a halt. These are not just collections of crumbling stone and rusted steel. They are open-ended questions etched into the landscape itself. They ask us what civilization truly is, and whether progress is a straight line or a cycle of creation and return. The most vital lesson they offer is that a city can never be just a blueprint. It is a living, breathing entity, a fragile ecosystem that depends on a delicate and constantly shifting balance. It needs a reliable flow of resources, a foundation of political and economic stability, and most importantly, the intangible web of human connection we call community. When any one of these elements fails, the entire structure can falter. So the next time you walk down a bustling city street, pause for a moment, look past the glass and steel and traffic, and try to see the living story embedded there. Consider the invisible networks of water, power, and trust that allow it to function. Wonder about its own master plan and what unforeseen challenges the future might hold for its enduring dream. These ghostly echoes of the past are not merely historical footnotes. They are cautionary tales and sources of inspiration, urging us to build with both wisdom and humility. We would love to hear which of these silent cities captured your imagination the most. Was it the political frieze of Varoshia, the economic ghost of Ordos, or the technological prophecy of the Illinois? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if these mysteries of the unbuilt world have captivated you, subscribe for more journeys into the forgotten corners of history.